Every summer night in Queens, there's this open field behind the New York Hall of Science that turns into something magical. String lights hung about rows of tents, and from each one comes a completely different world. The smelling of fried oil, charcoal smoke, spices, and herbs. You hear 20 different accents within a few steps. Someone selling arepas next to a stall with samosas. There are musics, crowds, heat waves, and floodlights. It's chaotic, a little overwhelming, but that's what makes it beautiful. The Queens Night Market is New York's most honest celebration of immigration, a mini United Nations powered by food. Most of the vendors here are small family businesses, people cooking the food they grew up with, the dishes that remind them of home. And together, they turn this patch of asphalt into the most diverse night market in the world. So tonight, and the following nights, instead of flying across continents, I'm eating my way through them, all in one market, one plate at a time. I started the culinary journey with something light and refreshing. This is Peruvian ceviche, the national dish of Peru, made fresh right in front of you. Fish cut into cubes in a mixing bowl with onions, cilantro, and freshly pressed lemon juice, tossed rigorously, then adding more citric juice and more tossing and mixing. The acid does the cooking, causes the protein in the seafood to denature, resulting in the dish appearing to be cooked without the application of heat. And within minutes, the fish turns opaque, half raw, half done, alive with citrus, and topped with chocolate corn to finish. The stall works like a well-oiled machine, 8 to 10 plates lined up, the vendor mixing and plating non-stop, one bowl after another. It's that flash of freshness that defines this iconic Peruvian street food, citric and vibrant, captured perfectly here under New York night lights. A little bowl that tastes like the Pacific somehow found its way into Queens. Then there's burek, the Balkan classic that crossed borders long before passports did. A round pastry made by spirals of dough stuffed with minced beef, sliced open, and a dollop of sour cream on the side. I didn't know it back then, but this was my gateway into a whole family of Ottoman-era pastries, the kind you find from Bosnia to Turkey, each with original twist. The version here is humble, hand-rolled, and no shortcuts. Still, it's hearty and delicious. And what I love about this is how it bridges histories. A dish born in empires, now served in a takeout box in Queens. This next one caught my attention because, well, how often do you see fried shark on a New York street menu? It's a Trinidadian shark sandwich, built like a festival of textures. Fried shark fillet, lettuce, onion, cucumber, pineapple, white sauce, and the real kicker, a sauce made with scorpion pepper.
Is this some salsa?
No, it's hot pepper, habanero, scorpion pepper.
They assemble it fresh on the counter, no frill. The shark's meat is soft but meaty. You can feel the fleshy texture, and the medley of condiments provided textures and flavors. Eating it here feels almost rebellious. Sweet, spicy, chaotic, and somehow, it all works. Moving on to another stand, Antigua and Barbuda, a small island nation in the Caribbean, where everything smells of the sea and spices. Even in an ethnic hodgepodge such as New York, Antiguan food is a hard find, and this was also my first time ever experiencing food from this obscure cuisine. They serve a bouillon-based style seafood stew. Rich, briny, and deeply herbal, like the ocean had been simmered with time. Then, I got saltfish and ducana, shredded codfish served over a mashed sweet potato. This is the national dish of Antigua. The cod is salty and packed with umami. The sweet potato soaks it up like a sponge, balancing the salt with gentle sweetness. There's okra too, cooked down until it's a little slimy, the kind of texture you either love or yearn to. To drink, tamarind juice, sweet, tangy, refreshing, like the Caribbean cousin of Chinese 酸梅汁. And then, something that caught me off guard. Ginger beer, except this isn't much of a beer at all. Just a fiery ginger drink that hits your throat like powdered spice. The alcohol is negligible, but the spice and heat is intense. I swear it burned all the way down, but in a strangely pleasant way.
Wow.
Then, from the Caribbean straight to South India, a thin, crispy dosa spreading across the griddle like a giant edible circular canvas, folded into a roll. It's made from fermented rice and lentil batter, accompanied with a side of chicken curry and green coconut chutney. The dosa cracks as you tear it. The curry is rich. The chutney cools it down. Every bite, a mix of heat, tang, and crispiness. I've since had many dosas, but this was my introduction. The gateway to one of South India's simplest but most perfect comfort food. A few stalls down, a stand from Mauritius, another island nation. This one is in the Indian Ocean. This biryani recipe came from the Indian community back home, so it's got that classic saffron rice and spiced chicken. But the flavor is slightly different, more coastal, more refreshing. Then, I found an Iranian stand serving something I wasn't quite sure of the name. I think it was a regional variation of koresh, a Persian stew. It's chicken cooked with plum and apricot, served over rice that had a golden, crispy crust at the bottom. The price tadi. There is yogurt with cucumber on the side, cooling and tangy. The dish is sweet, fruity, and rich, like a cousin of pheasant jam, but brighter. Even had cherries scattered through the rice. A little burst of acidity between spoonfuls. It's one of those dishes that doesn't shout. It hums. Quietly complex, a balance of sweet, tangy, and savory that lingers. Next up, Poland, pierogi, their national comfort food. One is stuffed with spinach and feta, oily and savory, reminding me of a Chinese dumpling filling. The other had mushrooms, potato, and truffle, crisp golden at the edges. On the side, kielbasa sausage, sauerkraut, and sour cream, smoky and tangy together.
Whoa.
To drink, black currant juice with mint leaves, tart, berry-like, almost like pomegranate, and refreshing. And then, one of the most eye-catching desserts of the night, the chimney cake, or kutoshkarach, a traditional pastry from Transylvania, which has deep Hungarian roots despite being found across Romania. It's made by wrapping long ribbons of sweet dough around a wooden spit, dusting them with sugar, and slowly roasting them over open heat as the cylinder spins. The sugar caramelizes into a glossy crust, forming a golden, hollow shell that's crisp outside and fluffy inside. Here, at Queensland Market, they serve it NYC style, the cone filled with ice cream and sprinkles, like a dessert within another dessert. I remember years later going to Budapest and seeing chimney cakes everywhere, in every street, every stall, in combinations that looks like dessert engineering experiments. It made me realize what I had here in Queens was really just the entry version. Still, even this simple one has the hypnotic texture, slightly burnt sugar crunch, soft buttery bread underneath, and cold ice cream, melting inside the warm shell. You can taste both tradition and reinvention in the same bite, like a Hungarian grandmother running a Brooklyn ice cream truck. Walking a few tents over, I spotted a stand selling langouche, a giant, fluffy flatbread, golden and inviting. It's again Hungarian in origin, but here in Queens, it's served Czech style, with crispy bacon, tartar sauce, and a devilish spicy sauce, which tastes like a mix of Thousand Island and Tabasco. Smoky, tangy, with a slow burning kick. Biting in is a bit of a mess. The bread is piping hot and challenges your heat tolerance. It's soft and gooey, the toppings crispy, even plain, the langouche is indulgent. Just a pillowy, fried bread that holds a hint of salt and yeast. Right next door, we have a Moldovan-Bashkir stand. A quite peculiar combination. I found two sweet items that stood out. First, waffle rolls. They look like cannoli, but with a crisp shell pressed with a floral pattern. Inside, a duo of fillings, vanilla cream and pumpkin custard. Rich and buttery, balanced with a hint of cheese. Powdered sugar dusted on top completes them. One bite, and you get both crunch and creamy indulgence, a little symphony in your mouth. Then, there is cheese donut, which I first thought was Moldovan, but later traced to Bashkortostan Republic in the Russian Federation. That's what the Bashkir stands for in the name. Maybe the vendors were of the Bashkir diaspora in Moldova that moved to New York. New York City never lets you down when it comes to whimsical combinations. The dough is deep fried, sweet and caramelized, filled with creamy, slightly salty cheese and condensed milk. Every bite is a contrast. Crisp shell giving way to soft, molten, almost custard-like interior. It's the kind of dessert that makes you stop mid-walk and just savor it. Rich, indulgent, and oddly comforting. It's one of my favorite items of the night. New York is always full of these little surprises, traditional roots transplanted in the heart of Queens. A few stalls over, I stumble on a uniquely Indian creation, fries chaat. Chaat is a peculiar combination that's somewhat hard to categorize, but it's usually a combination of different crispy carbs texture with a medley of sauces and more carbs. I've since had many chaats in Queens, each a little different, and I had to say, I love chaat. For this particular one, the fries are thick, heavy, then topped with onion, cilantro, small fried noodles called sev, and a tangy medley of chutneys. The flavor is a clash of heat, oil, tang, salt, and a little sweetness. Too oily for my liking, but it works well as hangover food. But that's not the only candidate for fries. A little further down from that stand, but geographically half a globe apart, I arrived at Argentina. This stand offered choripapas, golden fries topped with slice of chorizo, a drizzle of mayo, and chimichurri sauce. There are two most iconic Argentinian street food staples, choripan and choripapas. Chori stands for chorizo, which is the beautiful sausage you're looking at right now. You can pair it with either pan, that is the bread, or papas, that is the fries. So the name choripapas is pretty self-explanatory. It's simple, indulgent, savory, and herby, combining fried comfort with the punch of the sausage. The dish is the epitome of trashy comfort food. Very delicious, but very heavy, despite it gives you a little bit of illusion of healthiness by adding a touch of green salsa. Geographically back to Asia, next, a Bangladeshi stand offering fushka, essentially a cousin of pani puri, a crisp hollow shell filled with chickpeas, onion, cilantro, boiled eggs, spices, and a dash of sauce. It's messy, crunchy, and bursting with flavor. A little street snack of pleasure. To drink, a mango lassi. Creamy, sweet, and cooling. The perfect counterbalance to the spices. Then, I found Burmese food, which I barely explored before Queen's Night Market became my classroom. Nangji do, thick rice noodle tossed with chicken, peanut crumbles, and aromatic seasonings. It was my first time tasting it, and I couldn't even pronounce it properly, but the savory, nutty flavor and the pleasant noodle texture stayed with me. Ono kaosoi, a noodle soup with a gentle chicken-forward broth, just a hint of coconut. Simple and satisfying. Moving on to another Burmese stand, we have more goodies. Shan noodle. First tasted it here, and it reminded me oddly of instant noodle seasoning, but richer, with chicken, pickled mustard greens, bean sprouts, crushed peanuts, fried garlic, tomato, and homemade soy sauce. I've since had many versions, from the mom and pop shop of NYC, to the ethnic enclaves of Bangkok, to the heart of Yangon. But this market version captures the essence. Layer flavors, maximum satisfaction, another of my favorite items. Fried chickpea tofu, a crispy outer layer with silky, almost custard-like inside, paired with tamarind sauce. Every bite feels like an upgrade of French fries, crunchy, creamy, tangy. A few steps further, I stumble on Cambodia. Amok, steamed fish wrapped in banana leaves. The aroma of coconut and curry hits immediately. It comes with soy sauce fried rice on the side. The fish is tender, fragrant, slightly sweet, and a gentle hint of spice that rounds out the coconut. To drink, mung bean soy milk, blended with coconut and pandan leaves. It's mildly sweet, smooth, with tiny bits of mung beans giving it texture. It tastes familiar but unique, like a soothing whisper from a Cambodian street stall, delivered right here in Queens. The Indonesian stand was impossible to miss. Satay chicken, skewers of chicken, soft and spongy, almost custard-like airy inside. The seasoning is subtle, letting the texture shine. You can almost feel the skill in the mix. Ote ote, fried shredded vegetable fritters, topped with mayo and barbecue sauce. Crispy outside, tender inside.
So you can see this one.
It's messy, playful, and utterly satisfying. A snack that begs to be eaten immediately. Coconut pancake, soft, spongy, low torch to caramelize the pound sugar. Shredded coconut on top. Other versions include chocolate or peanuts. But this simple one is decadent and rich. Every bite is a mix of sweetness, crispiness, and slightly smoky depth, and the dopamine release is through the roof. Yet, another of my favorite items. Looks like I have a sweet tooth. From Indonesia, I moved to the Philippines. Turong, fried sweet plantain topped with purple yum ice cream. Inside the ice cream, little chocolate bits add a subtle crunch, and the cigar-like pastry at the bottom tastes faintly of banana. Sweet, creamy, texturally playful, the kind of dessert that makes a walk through the night market feel like a treasure hunt. Next, El Salvador, pupusa, thick corn tortilla stuffed with cheese and meat, topped with shredded lettuce and tomato salsa. They're messy, hearty, warm, and comforting. Eating one feels like a hands-on experience. The kind of food that asks you to get close and savor every bite without worrying about etiquette. Finally, Portugal, egg tarts. The crust is crisp and buttery. The custard inside creamy and velvety, still slightly runny, hot enough to burn your fingers if you're impatient.
Oh man, it was so hot.
Sweet, comforting, perfectly balanced. Except so hot that you had to vent it after taking a bite. It's a tiny ending note to a night filled with flavors from all over the world, all served under the string lights of Queens. Queens Night Market lets you taste these dishes without flying across the world. Sometimes, the first bite here is the gateway to a lifetime of discovery. Also, it's not just a place to eat. It's a place to travel without moving, to taste history, culture, and family stories with every bite. And at the end of the night, walking away with a full belly, you realize New York isn't just a city of immigrants. It's a city of flavors.